Hello, good morning, and welcome to Morning Brew on Politics Social. I'm Graham Hughes. It is Saturday, the 29th of June, 2024. We're doing a special weekend edition this weekend of Morning Brew because there's so much news to talk about. There's so much going on. There's going to be an election on Thursday. It's all very exciting. So first of all, I want to say a big hello to everyone in the chat. If you would like to join us in the chat, just subscribe to the channel. Really simple. Wait for about 30 seconds and then you will be allowed to add your comments. But please, no trolling, no right-wing shills, whatever. We don't deal with you. We just block you. You'll get one message in and then you'll be gone forever. But you will still be allowed to watch. You just won't be allowed to comment. Right, big shout out to everyone in the chat. We've got Plum Duff in there. We've got Anthony Fisher. We've got Stephanie Wilson. We've got Maureen O'Mara. We have got Alan Walker in there. Martin Harrow just dropped our boys at football. Now watching ships on the Mersey for some quiet me time, says Martin. That sounds like a lovely way of spending a Saturday morning, as is spending Saturday morning talking to you lot. So this is really cool. We're like the Wide Awake Club, if you're old enough to remember that. Right, so I want to talk about America. And I know there's people who say, Graham, you're British, you don't get to talk about America, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, because America gets to talk about every other country in the world. In fact, it gets it to interfere in the elections in pretty much every other country in the world, if it so wishes. It makes movies about every other country in the world. And if any other country in the world has done something wonderful or horrible in the last 200 years, they've probably made a film about it. They didn't ask. They didn't say, hey, do you mind if we make this movie about your country because we're not actually from your country? No. They just go ahead and make it anyway. But also, more pertinent than that, is like, if America re-elects Trump as president, it is going to have such a massive impact on the rest of us. I genuinely believe that it will be the beginning of the end of civilization as we know it, for a few reasons. One, there's probably going to be a civil war in America if Trump gets in, because he is going to attack every minority group and they will fight back. And America is awash with guns. I really don't like the way that sort of, that path leads is quite horrific. Secondly, you're going to have Trump being pals with Putin and allowing Putin to do whatever he likes, which means that Putin will be able to commit any horrors, up to and including tactical nuclear strikes in Ukraine, and get away with it. The only people who are going to stand up against him is going to be the rest of NATO, because Trump has made it very clear he's not interested in NATO. He wants America to leave NATO, and he wants everyone else to fend for themselves. He seems to think that NATO is a big pot of money that comes into America, when it's not. It's America's choice to spend as much as it does on its military, and the 2% that the other countries are supposed to spend, that was set by Barack Obama. And it was a target, not a rule, because it is an organization that people choose to join. Unlike the Russian Federation, stroke empire, which it rules by conquest in South Ossetia, or what's it called? South Ossetia, Abkhazia, that's the place, in what used to be in Georgia, and also in Crimea and in the Donbass region of Ukraine, where they are currently filling they've reduced cities to rubble. They have murdered and sexually assaulted thousands of innocent civilians. They have planted mines everywhere, concrete fortifications, which is it's going to take a lot for that war to be fixed. The only thing is with that is, if they do take over Ukraine, it's going to cost them more money than they currently have in order to rebuild it. So are they just going to leave it as a wasteland? What are they going to do? Like, are they going to try and get Russians to move to Ukraine to rebuild it? Because the Ukrainian resistance isn't going to stop if Russia invades and takes over, successfully takes out Vladimir Zelensky and his family, which is what Trump wants. Trump wants Vladimir Zelensky dead because Trump is a fucking psychopath. Just between you and me, he is a psychopath. He will kill anyone who gets in his way so long as he gets what he wants. Plum Duff, thank you so much for the £50 super chat. Wow, that made it worth getting up early this morning. Cheers for that, Plum Duff. You are a wonderful, wonderful person. Let's enjoy life while we can love and peace to all. Yeah, that would be my option. All things considered, That would totally be my option. But we've got these multiple fronts coming in that will affect us. But then there's stuff that will affect America, like Project 2025, a nationwide abortion ban in America, which is going to ruin the lives of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of women and also their families. It is going to ruin so many lives. It is going to be a rapist charter because it will force rape victims to have their rapist child. I mean, think about where that ends up. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's wrong at every level. Of course, an abortion ban doesn't stop abortion. It just stops safe abortions. If you are desperate enough to terminate your pregnancy, you will do it. If you have to, you will risk going to jail. You will risk your life to do it. And this is what horrible, grotesque old men like Trump can't get through their thick, stupid, fat heads, is that people, when they are desperate, they do desperate things. He doesn't care. He's been born rich. He's a Nepo baby. I love the idea that he's a white-collar billionaire. A blue-collar billionaire. That's what he tells people. It's absolute bollocks. But here's the thing, right? All that stuff to come if Trump wins. This isn't a game. There is no rematch next year if Trump gets in. He said he's going to be a dictator from day one. Can't stress this enough. Trump cannot become president of the United States again. Look at Project 2025. Look at what the Heritage Foundation, a grotesque think tank in America, which is paid for by oil oligarchs, tobacco barons, arms manufacturers. They are the worst of the worst, and they have all the money, and they want to influence American politics. And because of the way that the lobbying system is set up in America, they can do that as much as they like, pretty much. It's unlimited. It's unlimited how much they can influence American politics. And the only bulwark against a Trump presidency is the guy the woman who is running for the Democrats. And who is it? It's the mummy of bloody Tutankhamun. And this has got to stop. This has got to, before they have their convention in August, the Democrats need to sort this out. And any Democrat who tells you that Biden can do this needs a slap. Okay? Metaphorical slap. I'm not encouraging violence here. But, oh my God, wake up. Wake up. This guy isn't going to win against Trump. I know he's saying, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. I can beat him. I know that's what he's saying. But the reality is, he says he can do the job. Maybe he can do the job. But he can't beat Trump. Not after that performance. Not after that performance. People are not going to vote for him. Because they're going to be thinking, oh, what if Russia sends a nuclear weapon at us? And he's got to, press the button to send nuclear weapons back. It'll take him 4 minutes to press the bloody button. Be like this. It'd be like that bit in Austin Powers with the steamroller. Johnny Copperhead, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Graham, you're British. You don't get to. Oh, never mind. I'll just get my coat. Yeah. Thanks very much, Johnny Copperhead. I used to get this a lot because I did my final year dissertation on American gun law in America, or gun policy, I should say, because I was doing politics. And so I knew a lot about the way that the NRA was shaping American gun law in order to make it so very, very easy for paedophiles to buy guns and go out and kill as many people as they like. And then people will buy more guns because every time there's a massacre in America, people buy more guns. So the gun sales go up. So the ticker on the little stock exchange for the gun manufacturers goes up. So they love massacres, especially when children are involved. And I thought maybe at Sandy Hook, when over 28 children were killed by a lunatic with an AR-15, I thought maybe this is the point where America will wake up and say, hey, we can't sacrifice our own children on the altar of the profits of the arms industry. But no, they really can. They really can. They offer up their children, like we imagine the Mayans used to do at the top of their pyramids. They offer up their babies, like their firstborns. Here you go. Why don't you smash this beautiful little child's head in? Go on. That'll be great because that'll make money for someone else that I'll never meet. Manufacturing arms? Yay! But if I say that, I get into lots of trouble with Americans because they're like, you're British, you don't get to say, you don't get any say in our politics. And I'm like, yeah, I probably should do. because I know a lot more about it than a lot of Americans, but I don't. So that's the system. But I can make a video about it. Can't stop me doing that. Freedom of speech. Which isn't a thing in the UK. Just a disclaimer, freedom of speech doesn't exist in the UK. You're only allowed to say things that are not illegal for you to say. That's it. That's the rule. There is no positive... We have no positive rights in the UK. We did have a Bill of Rights that was written in like 1688, but it doesn't really affect us as normal people. I think it just affects the king and the nobles and I don't know, the ancestors of William the Conqueror. But yeah, it's not a thing that we have here. And in America, when they go freedom of speech to say what they want on a private platform like Twitter or Facebook, you're like, no, the government can't stop you saying what you want. But the owner of the establishment in which you're standing basically can, okay? If you go into a pub and you start reading a spiel about how much of a dick the landlord is, they are completely within their rights to throw you out. You don't have a right to go to Loser Fox's house and read out a spiel in his living room about how much of a sad, wasted, washed up actor, terrible singer, terrible human being he is, and how funny it is that he doesn't get to see his kids anymore because he's such a disgustingly deadbeat dad. You can't do that in his living room. You can do it online, that's fine. You can't do it in his living room. By the same stroke, the owners of these big platforms don't have to put up with racism or homophobia or transphobia. Of course, they do, but they are not supposed to. That's their choice. You have no right to freedom of speech, but they can't shut us up on YouTube. So, going back to my main point, Biden needs to go. Okay, so what we want to do with you guys today is let's have a discussion on who can replace him. Who can genuinely replace Biden in the next couple of months? Biden needs to stand down. Someone needs to take the car keys off granddad, okay? And as someone who has actually had to do that with my own father, as his slipping into dementia became a thing, it's a horrible thing to have to do. But one man's ego cannot supersede the needs of an entire planet. Because beyond Project 2025, beyond the war in Ukraine, beyond all of that, there is the sword of Damocles hanging over us all. That is climate change. America is the biggest polluter on the planet. Trump wants to up the dial to 11 on the amount of pollution that he and his country create. That's his plan. He wants to accelerate climate change. And if you are enjoying the number of storms we're having, the number of trees that are falling down in this country, the amount of flooding we're having, the coastal erosion that we're having, if you are enjoying all that, well, bonds are few. The rest of us are not enjoying that. And if you live in another country, I hope you're enjoying your forest fires, your heat spells where people are just dying of the heat, as happened in Saudi Arabia. People going on the Hajj to Mecca were dying in their thousands from the heat. This year, people in India dying from the heat. Do you enjoy that? Do you like the fact that people are dying for no reason other than that we have turned the thermostat of the entire planet up 1.5 degrees and we're going to be turning it up even more? More extreme weather events, more hurricanes, more storms, more flash floods. That's the future that the fossil fuel industry wants for the world. That's the future they want for their children. And that's why you see their propaganda, and I've got to admit, it does proper wind me up where I see their mindless their propaganda mindlessly retweeted by people, reposted by people on Facebook who were like, oh yeah, these wind turbines, oh, they're terrible, they kill birds. No, do you know what kills birds? Tall buildings. Tall buildings kill birds. Do you know what else kills birds? Cats, okay? So unless you want a nationwide kill the cats program, you're not really into protecting birds, because cats kill, and this is a fact, millions of birds every year in just this country. Around the world, it's probably billions, but in this country, it's millions. Wind turbines don't kill that many. But if you're really, really concerned about the birds, let's take out the cats first, because they kill a lot more of them. And then you get the greenwashing shit about people's carbon footprint, which is a term invented by the oil industry to make you feel guilty about them burning oil. Then you have things like carbon capture, green technology, that doesn't fucking work. I mean, just have a think. Think about this for a moment. Most of the energy that is burnt and most of the pollutants that are made in your car engine from the petrol that you put into it, okay? So if we pump that stuff out of the ground under the sea, outside of Libya, wherever it comes from, and then bring it over here, and you think about all the fossil fuel that's burnt on that process, then it's distillated into different fractions of oil, and you get tar, you get bitumen at the bottom, and you get paraffin at the top, whatever, right? So you distillate it, and then you truck it off to your local Esso garage or Shell garage or BP garage, and you go, and then you pump that into. You have to drive there, and you have to pump that into your car. Right, the exhaust at your car, that's where a load of that pollutant is going out, okay? I know not all of it, because we just spent a lot of pollutants getting it to that petrol station and for you to get to the petrol station. But it's coming out your exhaust, of your exhaust pipe on your car. Are you staying with me on this one, right? So you're burning the fuel in your car. The exhaust is pumping this stuff out. How do you capture that carbon? Someone tell me in the chat, how the hell do you capture that carbon? I've got a way. You don't. You simply do not, because there is no way of capturing that carbon. And then what? You put it back into a pump, which puts it back into a tank under the ground. And then maybe what? Does that get put onto a lorry? The carbon, is there going to be a carbon lorry, and that's going to drive back to the port, and that's going to be put on a ship, and that's going to be taken to the oil rig, and then the oil rig is going to pump your pollution from your car after transporting it back there down under the ground, and then it's going to be put into an underground chamber under the North Sea. Is that the plan? Is it? Because that's bloody bonkers. It makes no sense to anyone who bothers thinking about it for 30 seconds. And then we've got hydrogen. Oh my God, we've seen the hydrogen. The hydrogen's amazing. Hydrogen is bullshit. I am sick of hearing about it. 99% of hydrogen is made by burning fossil fuels. No wonder the oil companies are so behind it. You go to the Lib Dem conference, you go to the Labour conference, you will see a big hydrogen-powered vehicle, usually a bus or something. Look, it's powered by hydrogen. And that whole thing is paid for by the oil companies because they want us to continue burning oil to produce hydrogen. Instead of, here's an idea for you, plucking energy from the air and transporting it into your car at the speed of light through wires and cables that already exist. But what about the infrastructure, Graham? The infrastructure's not yet, because the government is being paid by the oil industries to make the oil industry, not to make sure that the infrastructure isn't there. But you know what is there? Electricity. Everywhere. Everywhere has electricity. And yes, fast charging is great, but you need to have transformers and you need to have better cables going across the country in order to achieve that. But slow charging, overnight charging, that's all right. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. But the oil companies don't want that. So just follow the money. That's all I can say. Follow the freaking money. Yes, anyway. So we've got in the chat there, Jamie Raskin for president, says Tim Barlin. Thank you very much for that super chat there. And Wayne, how are you this lively after last night? Mate, I travelled for 4 years to, as you know, to every country in the world. I just have a lot of, I don't know, I just have a lot of stamina. I'm going for the Guinness World Record for the longest live stream in November, if you want to join us for that. I'll tell you all about it after the election. But yeah, I've been in touch with Guinness and I've been in touch with YouTube. It's going to be fun. Jup, you don't need to capture that carbon, Graham. You just need to capture the same amount of CO2 anywhere. How, mate? How do you capture it? The same amount of CO2? Where's it coming from? Where are you going to capture it from? The air? You're going to capture it from the sky? You know, they've got a carbon capture bullshit thing that they set up in Iceland. It captures the same amount as a couple of trees. I mean, it's just that whole tech idea of getting out of the problem we're in using technology. It's just utter bullshit. And it's paid for by the oil companies. We've got to stop falling for it. The way that we detransition from carbon fuels is we stop using fricking carbon fuels. And the argument that Farage used last night is was it Farage? Yeah, it was. He goes, oh, China's not. Oh no, I think it was someone in the audience asking the co-leader of the Green Party. He said, what are we going to do about, how do we get China to go green? I'm like, I don't care. How about we go green and then we run our own energy grid with our own power that we produce on these islands? How about that? Wouldn't that be nice? Using tidal power, nuclear power where necessary, wind power, solar power. We can do it. We can do it. The technology has crashed in price. One of the reasons why we haven't made any new nuclear stations in years, in decades, is because they're too expensive for the amount of cost that you have. And then you have the problem of disposing of the nuclear fuel, which no one's really got a good solution for yet. And maybe no one ever will have a good solution for it. I don't know. I do know that the half-life of cesium is ridiculously long. And yeah, we've got to address the fact that we need baseline power. I do understand that. I do understand that concept. But at the same time, we do have tidal power, which can be a thing if we invested in it. But we don't invest in it because of the oil companies who stop all this stuff from going ahead. So anyway, right, we're talking about alternatives to Biden. Who can replace Biden? Who would be good? Perry Pilot, the problem with Biden's seemingly better performance at yesterday's campaign is that he was reading from a teleprompter. Perry, yeah, and the damage is done. After that performance of that debate, it's over. It is over. Forget about it. There's no argument to be had anymore. He cannot run for president because he will lose. It's as simple as that. It is an arrow from one statement to the next. He cannot run for president. Why? He will lose. Because Trump won that debate. Trump lied about 97 times in that debate. He didn't answer a single question. He answered a different question to the question he was asked. He wasn't picked up on any of the lies that he told. He just lied his way through it, and yet he still won that debate because he could put what sounded like a coherent sentence together, whereas Biden couldn't. It was demoralizing watching that happen, and I'm sorry, and I wish that it wasn't so. But Biden cannot run this campaign unless the Democrats just want to hand the presidency and possibly another 3 Supreme Court judges picks to the crazy MAGA Republicans who want every baby to be born and given a gun. I don't know. It's horrible. Green hydrogen is an option. No, it's not, because what you're doing with green hydrogen is you're using green energy, which could just go straight into your house, straight into your car, and you're adding an extra factor of it being turned into hydrogen. And then you have to transport the hydrogen. And hydrogen only transports, and this is the problem with hydrogen, at over minus 200 degrees Celsius. Like almost to absolute zero, okay? So you've got to freeze it down, which takes a lot of energy. And then you've got to keep it frozen. You can't just put it in a thermos flask and hope for the best and then get it to its destination. And it's going to be frozen in its destination, waiting to be used in its frozen state, because hydrogen is an incredibly expansive gas. I mean, the physics and the chemistry of it do not add up. I don't care how much the oil companies are spending on trying to convince people that hydrogen is this magic box answer to all our problems. It's really funny because I've heard it all my life. From the 1980s, people were going about hydrogen. Do you hear about those hydrogen cars? The only waste product is water. And I'm like, that sounds too good to be true. Oh, look, it's too good to be true. Because to get hydrogen into your car, how do you do it? You know, it blows my mind, because hydrogen is such an expansive gas. You need to freeze it down to ridiculous freezing levels, and that takes a lot of energy. Like the sums just don't add up in my head. When we can take energy from the air, we can take it from the sun and plumb it directly into your car at the speed of light, directly to your house at the speed of light. Instead of digging it up from under the ground off the coast of Libya. Like, why are we even doing that? Why are we completely dependent on Qatar for our gas? Like, why? They're just Qatar, where they get slaves to build football stadiums. I'm sorry to labour this point, but hydrogen is bullshit. Hydrogen is bullshit from top to bottom, left to right. It's never going to fix anything. Right, let's go to the papers. Biden's shaky TV debate sparks calls to quit race. Do you think so, The Guardian? And they've got a special issue about sex around the world. Sounds like my trip. And then the Daily Telegraph here. Biden is given 1 week to stand down. Good. Make him stand down. Absolutely, 100% make him stand down. And Dimbleby saying, oh, politicians are not up to scratch. David Dimbleby there writing or being interviewed by the Telegraph and basically saying that they're all as bad as each other, which is the line that the Tories want you to believe. It's Tory washing. We're all as bad as each other, really, if you think about it. No, there were people in the Tory party, 15 of them, who knew the date of the general election and placed a bet knowing the date of the general election. There was one person in the Labour Party who, for a joke or something, or to make himself feel better if he lost, he placed a bet that he would lose. One of them is a definite result that was known, and that's insider trading. The other one is a best guess of like, well, maybe if I lose, then I'll at least get some money. Both of them problematic. One more problematic than the other. Okay, Boris Johnson having 17 parties in his house during lockdown is worse than Keir Starmer having one beer with a curry during an election campaign. It's just orders of magnitude. Lord Ashcroft dodging over £100 million worth of tax that he should have paid, but getting away with it while going on about Angela Rayner dodging £1,500 of stamp duty that she should have paid in 1992 or something. I don't know. I'm not really paying attention to it because it's so immaterial. In the greater scheme of things, look, we'll get Labour on. We get them on this, film, because she was with this other guy, and she still had her old flat, and she was going back and forth like most people do when they start a relationship. But no, she should have paid. She should have declared it to the state that she was in a relationship. HMRC looks at it and goes, "No, we don't care. What do you want about?" And the police in Manchester, they put 15 police officers onto this Angela Rayner's, £1,500. It cost the taxpayer hundreds of thousands of pounds. There were rape victims who, are waiting for a year for things to go to trial over a year. Some know that they're never going to get justice, but we're spending over £100,000 on investigating Angela Rayner's living arrangements 15 years ago. Absolutely, that's what you need to spend your money on. And then meet Britain's next F1 champion at the top of the Telegraph there, Lando Norris, privately educated, of course. And there's Jonathan Dimbleby there. David Dimbleby, privately educated, of course. And there's some celebs at Glastonbury. It's the lovely lady from the movie Midsummer, privately educated, of course. Let's see if we can spot anyone who's not privately educated on the front of any of these newspapers. Or footballer. They're not privately educated usually. But yeah, Rishi Sunak, he certainly is. My hurt and anger at daughters hearing racial slur. We talked about this last night. It is a bit rich coming from a man who has trumpeted racist policies to now be like, I never expected the leopards eating face party to eat my face. And then we've got a story about this missing Brit who went missing on holiday. Badenoch voters must see through Farage's act. Badenoch, privately educated, of course. Farage, privately educated. Democrats discussing whether to ditch Biden. They absolutely should. Stop discussing it and just do it. Just ditch him. The thing is, it's up to Biden. It's up to Biden whether he does it or not. So there you go. Man baby beats up doddery old bloke on live TV. That's what happened. It was embarrassing. Joe Biden's stumbling performance in TV debate with Trump triggers panic amongst Democrats, as it should do. That is a perfectly natural outcome of watching that absolute cluster F of a debate. That was just horrific. PM hurt and angry at P-word. Race slur by Farage activist that now Farage is saying was a paid actor, even though he's been campaigning for refuck for a long time. And also, Lawrence Fox was an actor, apparently, only because of his family connections and the fact that he went to private school. But there you go. Boris Johnson, also privately educated. There you go. And we've also got Starmer and Sunak on the front there. They both went to private school. I mean, obviously, with Starmer, his school became private while he was there, I guess. But so he didn't pay the fees to be there, but he obviously got some benefits from it, because it's almost as though we live in a caste system where the people who go to private school get a leg up, and the rest of us don't. We get kicked down. Biden defies call to bow out. No, make him. He gets no choice in this matter. It is a matter of life and death for America and possibly the world. We cannot be, once again, being held hostage to the ego of one dothery old man who thinks he's still got it when he ain't got it. And anyone looking at this, from the left, from the right, from the outer space can see he ain't got what it takes to do this. So ditch him, get rid of him, put him in the bin, put him out to retirement. Just put him in the field, put him on put a little blanket over his knees and give him some hot cocoa. I don't care. Just get rid of him. Emily Maitlis is on the front cover of the I Weekend there, saying ditch Biden. World should be scared by president's TV collapse. I am. We are. Emily Maitlis, the first Newsnight presenter since it started in 1979 to not have been privately educated. So there you go. We got one. Token statey, like the rest of us. UK public sends clear message to Labour and the Tories: save Britain's rivers. Yes, we need to do that. I mean, to stop these foreign companies, these foreign-owned water companies, from dumping loads and loads of water, loads and loads of sewage into our seas. But the problem is, nearly everyone who runs these companies is part of the private school mafia, so that's not going to happen. Right, anyway, so love our Donny and his cute little haircut. Yeah, he's so cute. That's from Roger. Hi, Roger, how you doing? Resident Michael Take in the audience here. We've got Christopher Bowles, Tory GB News presenter. Philip Davis also gambled against himself. Is it me or is Graham a bit hyper today? No, I'm just, you know, I just like to be energetic on a Saturday morning. Beats going for a jog. We can literally make hydrogen from electrolysis anywhere. The seawater, just build the factories on the coast. Yes, but it takes energy, Alan. It takes energy to do that, and then you have to transport the hydrogen. They're your two big problems. It takes a lot of energy to do the hydrolysis that you need to get the hydrogen out of the seawater, and then once you got the hydrogen, what do you do with it? You can't. It can't go down a pipe, because the pipe would have to be massive. You know, natural gas, methane that we use to ethane, whatever it's called, natural gas that we use can go through a tiny little pipe and you still get enough gas to do it, right? But hydrogen is so spread out. You would need a pipe this bloody big to get the hydrogen in enough quantity down it. It's just the volume doesn't work. Anyway, unless you super freezed it, and that takes energy. Please, just, I don't know what to say about this. It's just it depresses the crap out of me with people going, oh, we need hydrogen because that's the way of the future, because we've been told this lie so many times, so many of us, but now believe it. It is bullshit. We have a much better way of getting energy to our houses, to our cars, and that is through renewable sources. Hydrogen is not a renewable source. It never can be. You could make an argument for making a small amount of it for industry, but not for everyday life. And that's where the big change needs to happen. And it needs to happen with all of us. One of the things that I've said before is, in movies, the only time humanity ever gets together and works together is when there is an existential threat, usually aliens, right? Aliens come and attack us. It's the war of the world. It's Independence Day, whatever. And then humanity joins up, usually led by the Americans, but it's usually an American movie. And it's like, oh, we'll put our differences aside. The Palestinians fight alongside the Israelis. The Pakistanis fight alongside the Indians. The Taiwanese fight alongside the Chinese, the North Koreans, the South Koreans, all together. Let's fight the aliens. Yeah. But the reality is, if aliens came down with heat laser weapons, I couldn't do anything about it. What could I do? I don't even own a pea shooter. You know, I can't fly a fighter jet into the anus of the spaceship. What am I supposed to do? I can't do any of that. I'll probably just, die. But with climate change, I can actually do something. I can actually make a difference. I mean, a small difference for just me. But if everyone does it, if everyone cuts down a bit how much meat they eat, especially beef, which is tremendously bad for the environment, just cut it down. I'm not saying stop it entirely if you don't want to, but cut it down. Try and, pushing for a government that gives massive subsidies to buying electric cars and puts money into building the infrastructure required so that cars can get, charged up. And get the energy companies to pay for that. Because don't forget, they're going to make more money out of this, because we're going to be using more electricity once all the cars are electric in a few years' time. They're going to make money out of that, because you're going to plug in, go on your smartphone app, press play, or charge up while you're getting your supermarket shopping. I mean, I can't tell you how good electric cars are. I know a few people with electric cars now. None of them are ever going back to an ICE engine. Like they're just, sorry, that was a redundancy. They're going back to an internal combustion engine. They're not going to do it, because they're so convenient. It costs £3 for us to get from Durham to Liverpool in energy. It costs £70 in fuel. I mean, probably £30, £35 at least in fuel to get there in petrol or diesel. Like, the cost saving is just insane. And they go, well, what about charging? What about charging? Yeah, once every single car park in the UK has solar panels above every, the canopies of all where the car's parked, and you can plug in. Fast charging takes 20 minutes. And we only need to do it once a week. So great, I'll do that while I'm doing my shopping, which takes me more than 20 minutes. Thank you very much. Or if you're traveling with kids, it's like this idea that I'm going to travel for 600 miles without stopping. No, that never happens because you crash. You'll fall asleep. You need to stop now and again. As someone who's driven to Ukraine and back on no less than 4 occasions, I can tell you, I'm driven across the Nullarbor in Australia. I'm driven from Melbourne up to Alice frickin' Springs. I can tell you, you take stops, okay? You take stops and you stop and have a coffee. It takes about 20 minutes. The fact that you don't have to get your hands all dirty and smelling of petrol and diesel and stuff, it's great. It's absolutely great. So £3 to get to Liverpool. I could charge up wherever I want because eventually everyone's just going to have a plug socket outside the houses. Fine. We will sort it out. There'll be something in the floor where, you open something, you pull the plug socket up and you plug in at the side of the road. That's something we can do. If you're in a car park, every single car park will have a plug socket because that's what you need, a plug socket. And you're thinking, oh my God, the infrastructure. We're not talking about building a bloody, a Buckminster Dome everywhere around the world in order to make this technology happen. The technology's there. The first electric locomotive was built, and you can check this online, 1837. 1837. I don't know if it was that one or another one. It was ripped apart by train workers because they thought that if we stopped using coal, then they'll be out of work. Anyway, Di, thank you very much for the £25 super chat. That's really kind of you. Thank you. Even though I feel like I'm being needlessly antagonistic this morning. Great weather, feeling good. Tory's on the way out. So here's a pony. Thank you for my pony in my pocket. I've got a suitcase in the back. Did you say boot? In the boot. Jup James, what type of electric cars are you talking about? The ones that can build without any steel? I mean, how green can an electric car be if you don't want H2 steel production? No, I'm saying that some hydrogen can be used for that kind of production. But the reality is we have enough cars on the road at the moment, which means that we have enough steel in order to make more cars out of that steel. And once steel's already been made into the kind of fine production steel that you need for engines and cars at the moment, and don't forget, real cars, real cars, a real man drives a real car, uses fossil fuel energy. Now, an engine of a car has so many moving parts. It's all metal, pretty much. But think about, the spark plugs, the pistons, the alternator, the carburetor if it's an old car. All of those parts, they're all made out of metal. Right? So the thing is with the new arc electric steel, right? Unlike the blast furnace steel, is that it's no good for making steel from, I guess, whatever they get steel from, the minerals, getting raw materials from the soil and then making steel out of it, but it can recycle already tempered steel and make it steel again in a different form. And that's what we can do. We can recycle those cars and we can make electric cars. We can do that. Lithium, people go, oh no, lithium, because this is another bit of greenwashing, but another bit of green propaganda, anti-green propaganda by the oil companies is that lithium mining is somehow terribly dangerous and then loads of people die. It's not dangerous compared with digging oil out from under the sea, which is so dangerous, it blows my mind. You will find out how much scuba divers who work on those rigs get paid. It is a ridiculous sum of money because so many of them die. Simple as that. It's danger pay. And then you've got the process of getting that oil onto a ship, getting the ship across the waters, maybe pirate-infested waters, who knows, to its port of destination, and then getting it off the ship, and then hoping the ship doesn't run aground and put oil everywhere and kill a lot of seabirds. And then you've got to, as I say, you've got to distill the oil into different fractions of oil. And then that's dangerous. And then you've got to put the oil the petrol that you make, or the diesel, you have to put it on the road in a tanker, which then makes the roads more dangerous everywhere in the world, not least in the UK, where you find that most of the motorways here are one-lane motorways because that's the only lane that the cars can be in, because trucks and lorries carrying fuel and everything else are in the inside 2 lanes. I mean, just so it's so infuriating to see like this propaganda working, and we've got to stop it. And the problem is the people who are putting out this propaganda are the ones with the money, and the people who are trying to fight against it, like myself and others, we ain't got the money. You know, we're not millionaires, we're certainly not billionaires, but everyone who works for these oil companies pumping out their lies and pumping out their pollution is. We need to think about this on a war footing, and sort of think about how propaganda and lies are used during a war. Leafleting campaign where the Nazis put out leaflets saying that Winston Churchill hasn't got your best interests at heart or whatever. You've got to pick that up and think, who's telling me this? Whose research is this? Who benefits from us thinking this way? And 99 times out of 100, when it comes to this greenwashing bullshit, it's the oil companies behind it, or the think tanks that the oil companies pay for, like the Heritage Foundation in America, the IEA in the UK, the other 55 Tufton Street lobby groups that are charities for some reason because of our weird charity rules, and also get billions and billions of pounds each year to spread lies. And I'm sick. I'm absolutely sick of it. And yeah, you know, lithium's not 100% ideal, but nothing ever is. And lithium is way greener, 100 million times more greener than the fuel that we're burning in our cars every day, which is just absolute madness. So we need to take a step back and go, what are we doing here? And then the images of children looking for coltan in Congo, which is disgraceful, but also quite hypocritical that someone is sharing that image on their mobile phone or on their laptop computer, which I will tell you now almost definitely contains some coltan from the Democratic Republic of Congo, Democratic Republic of Coltan, because that's where the biggest naturally occurring resource of that is. And yeah, it's crap. And we need to think of better ways of making our batteries that don't involve coltan, or making our electronic products. Or, here's an idea, why don't we give a proper amount of aid to these developing nations so that people there can lead a better life, and children aren't feeling that they have to go and work digging for bloody coltan in Goma, outside Goma, in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. That would be great. That would be bloody wonderful. But instead of doing that, we make sure that these countries stay impoverished because we steal their natural resources without remunerating them correctly. And the cycle goes on. But for the oil companies to do that, when I've been to Port Harcourt in Nigeria, you want to see what the oil companies have done to the Niger Delta. They have destroyed that entire... There's no life. There's no life. They've killed it all with their numerous oil leaks that they do not have to pay any kind of compensation to the local people for causing. From their oil that is being pumped out of the sea, and it comes along pipelines onto the coast, and it destroys the lifestyles of everyone who lives there. The livelihoods of anyone who works on the sea. Unless you're working for the oil companies, which a lot of the locals aren't. Which is why, if someone who looks like me turns up in Port Harcourt, there's a good chance I'll be kidnapped and held for ransom. Because that's the kind of relationship that we have now with the people, the otherwise good people of the Niger Delta. Because of what we Europeans and Americans have done to their country in our insatiable desire for oil, more oil. Can we have some more oil on top of that oil, please? And yes, in the future, we will still need oil. We will still need plastic. There's no point burning it because we still need products that can only be made with oil, effectively, at scale. And I know that we can make plastics through plants, but we don't have the agricultural space to do that. Thank you very much, at the moment. So we need to think long and hard about how we are going to address the issues that confront us in going forward over the next 75 years to the end of the century. because a child born today will live possibly till the end of the century. Although the longevity is declining in the UK because the Tories have been in power for 14 years. But that's another story. So anyway, Biden, stand down. Stand down and shut up. Get someone else to stand in your space. I'm disgusted, says Roger Devine, with his custard. Hazard pay, says one angry pagan. There's literally already hydrogen planes. Lithium-ion batteries don't have the throughput for feasible for weight concerns. Yeah, I don't disagree that the planes can't run on lithium-ion batteries at the moment, but that is something that we can work on, or we can think of better chemistry for batteries. Aluminium might be a solution, but don't forget also lithium is one of the lightest elements. I know hydrogen's lighter, but lithium's the third lightest element there is. It is literally hydrogen, helium, lithium. It's the third one on the periodic table. It's very light compared with pretty much anything else. Definitely compared with lead batteries, which is what's in your vehicle, your car, your internal combustion engine car. And don't think that I'm some like anti-petrol head. Like I'm sitting here going, I hate cars. I don't really understand them, so I hate them. I grew up working every bloody Saturday. This is going to turn into my daddy was a toolmaker thing, but my dad was a mechanic. He was a car mechanic, and he had a shop in Liverpool. And every Saturday, I'd have to work at the shop, cleaning out carburetors, dismantling, manifolds and things, and basically putting the stuff back together. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm some kind of whiz when it comes to fixing cars or whatever. I'm not. I can sometimes look at it and go, "Oh, that's your problem there," when it's really obvious. But it's not like I don't know anything about cars. That's my point. And the amount of moving parts in a internal combustion engine compared with an electric engine is just nuts. The amount of resources that go into that and the amount of things that can go wrong. And one of the big reasons why the car manufacturers are so hesitant about electric cars, they don't want to push for them. They will only push for them if they are forced to by a government, like what they did in California in the 1990s, where they brought in this Clean Air Act, which meant that a third or a quarter or whatever it was of new cars had to be electric. So these car manufacturers went, shit, we're going to have to make electric cars now. And they did. And they were really successful. And people wanted them. And they all sold out. But they didn't sell because you could only lease them. This is great. This happened in the 90s. There's a documentary about it called Who Killed the Electric Car? And at the same time, the automobile companies and the oil companies teamed up and they lobbied for the Republicans to take over in California, which they did. And one of the first things they did was to get rid of the Clean Air Act because, who needs clean air for their children? They don't deserve to breathe clean air in their healthy little pink lungs. Grrr. And the next day, knock on the door, and people are like, "We'll have our car back, please, now." Representative of Ford or GM, "We'll have our cars back now, please." And the owners of these cars were like, "But I own this car." And like, no, you only lease it. And as part of the leasing document, we can take them back whenever we want. They did, and they crushed thousands of these cars and put the little blocks that they made from crushing them in the desert. They dumped them in the desert. In the documentary, they actually tracked down where in the desert they dumped them. Because car manufacturers don't want electric cars. Why not? Because there's too few things to go wrong. There's no gearbox. Even in your automatic car, still has it has a gearbox. It's an automatic gearbox, but it is a gearbox. An electric car, you have all the torque you will ever need. Okay, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. It's ridiculous, the amount of power behind an electric motor compared with a crappy internal combustion engine motor, which is the most inefficient way of getting around at the moment that we use in everyday life. It is horrifically inefficient to get that energy from under the sea and put it into your car and then burn it. It is objectively the craziest thing we could possibly do. Anyway, I've got a bit over time. Biden, says Roger Haslock. Yes. There was an electric plane being trialled in northern Scotland for short flights. The point is that what we have now, we need to reduce emissions. If the surplus for electrolysis, then we should use hydrogen where there is no other alternative. Yeah, Alan, completely agree with you. We have the system, we have the things in place now that can achieve the goal of getting us to net zero by 2030, which is only 5.5 years away. We can do it if there is a concerted effort. We can't do it if people are like, don't like electric cars. Why not? They're just as bad as internal combustion engine cars. Why? Oh, because they break dust. They still need tires. I'm like, yes, but compared with, and they're like, but what about the resources that takes to build them? Well, you've got the same with an internal combustion engine car, and the CO2 that was used creating the car, that's basically nullified within 3 years of using the car. And these cars have got at least a 10-year life. Well, you got to replace the batteries. Yeah, after 10 years. That's fine. Most people don't have a 10-year-old car. They buy a new one. Anyway, so says Computer Man. I make it look easy. Alan Walker, I've read that one. Simon, we are talking about those people who are going to be history. Henry Ford made a car ages ago made of hemp resin body panels that actually ran on hemp oil as well. I'm sure this is in the 60s. That's the reason I support EVs. No more gearbox rebuilds. The trams in Dublin went well, but you want a decent sized city to justify it with loads of tram lines here, but closed half the network. You wouldn't believe it now. Well, Liverpool used to have an amazing integrated transport system with trams and buses and trains and ferries across the city from across the river. And that was in the 20s. Not these 20s, but the 1920s. And we took most of that infrastructure away, because we had to sacrifice everything on the altar of the automobile, the internal combustion engine, which we seem to revere more than any other thing that we've ever created in history of anything. And it's kind of depressing, the fact that, I've said this before, Ford Prefect called himself Ford Prefect and tried to shake hands with a car when he came to Earth because he thought cars were in charge. He looked at the Earth from above and thought, yeah, cars are the dominant life form on that planet, which makes sense if you think about the way that we construct our lives around the needs of the car, and the needs of the car not to stop and to drive really fast and dangerously at every opportunity. But there you go. Right, I'm not saying it is. I hope to go for a look. Right, okay, I'm gonna head off now. I'll be back tonight. Should we do a show tonight? Should we do another quiz tonight? Anyone up for a quiz tonight? Does anyone want to do that tonight? I'll do it if you want. If you want to do it, let me know. The overhead railway, don't forget. Yeah, great overhead railway. But it was going to cost too much to restore, to fix up in the 1950s, so they dismantled it. Instead, the Dockers Umbrella. It would be a hell of a tourist attraction now. The only overhead railway in the world that ended up in an underground tunnel at the Dingle. Which is kind of crazy, but there you go. Always remember the plot of Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Yes, which was the sequel to Chinatown and the Two Jacks. Got a fun little factoid for you. They repurposed the script for the sequel to Chinatown and the Two Jacks to become Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That actually happened. Quiz, yes. Yes, quiz. What are your plans for ejection night? So, Jamie Max, thank you for asking. I'm going to be in London, in Vauxhall. It's a club in Vauxhall that we are taking over. Me and Femi and Supertansky and Marina Perkis and Gemma Forte and lots of other people who make content that you like to watch on these channels. I'm sure we're all going to be there at 9 o'clock till 3 o'clock. If you would like to come to this party, there's about 100 tickets left. Might be less than that now. I don't know. But just send me an email at Graham David Hughes. Just send me, go to my website, grahamdavidhughes.com, and there's a box at the bottom, and you can send me a message at the bottom of the box. I don't want to read out my email live on internet because I'll probably get loads of spam and bots and all that kind of nonsense. Signed up to lots of, sex sites and things like that. So yeah, if you go to grahamdavidhughes.com, if you want to come to this party with us, we also have a few tickets for people who can't afford wouldn't normally be able to afford to go to something like this. We can help with the transport, getting there, so long as you're not coming from outside London, and also and getting home afterwards. And also we can get you a couple of drinks when you're there. So if that sounds good to you and you want to come and watch that with us, let's do that. And also I'm going to be in London in the morning after an all-night session doing a live stream. I'm going to be live streaming the whole event, and then afterwards we're going back to an Airbnb. I will be continuing to live stream as all the results come in till past 6 in the morning, and then might have a couple of hours kip, and then I'm up for meeting people for lunch in central London. So if that sounds good to you, head over to grahamdavidhughes.com. Send me a message. Let's meet up. If you know somewhere near Vauxhall, that'd be good to meet up in the morning for a cup of coffee and a celebratory croissant or something. Now that they're only £1.20 because Camp Binface is going to win and bring down the price of croissants everywhere across London. I hope, fingers crossed. Please let me know, and we'll get that sorted because I will be around. Anyway, Tim Bannon says the reason people are pushing for hydrogen is because it gives an excuse to wait and continue to use hydrocarbons. Yes, Tim, it's always 10 years away. Since the 1980s, it's always been just 10 years. Just 10 years. Look at this prototype that we've built. Just 10 years. And I'm like, look at millions of electric cars that have been built that actually work. After party at Graham's Airbnb. It won't be at the Airbnb. It'll be at the, I don't know, it'll be in a cafe somewhere. Or maybe a pub. I'm going to start drinking again. Depends how bad our hangovers are. But I'm really, really excited. 5 days to the election. It's going to be epic. I'll do a quiz tonight. Probably 9 o'clock. I'll let you know. It'll come up as a notification on your phone. We'll do another nice and sleazy politics quiz because I wrote out like 100 questions last time and I only got through 50 of them because there's so much Tory sleaze to get through. So yeah, I'll get working on that. Captain Bob Roberts with the badges and the trans symbol there. We just need 10 years of shareholder profits. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the oil companies for you. Okay, so until next time, I'll say thank you very much for watching. Remember to click the like icon, the like button, smash it, apparently. Don't forget to visit endthetories.com if you want to help with us setting up autonomous ways of getting our messages out to people, getting the truth out to people in similar ways that the refuck people are doing with their bot farms. We're going to fight back against them with not quite bot farms, but, you know, instead of spreading propaganda and lies, we're going to be spreading the actual truth about what these, not just political parties, but also corporations and things are actually up to. We want to amplify things like Led by Donkeys output so that it's not just us that sees them and goes, yeah, well, that's it, you know, but actually get that stuff under the noses of the people who really need to see it, i.e. Tory voters, Reform voters who might not be exposed to the truth ever if they just read the Daily Mail and their Facebook feed with all their racist friends on it. So until next time, head over to endthetories.com to see how you can help with that, either by helping finance us getting started or by actually helping us with the programming of everything. That would be great. And Roger Devine says, I blame Gary Lineacre for electric cars. Yeah, me too, mate. Me too. Until next time, I'll say thank you so much for watching the first ever Morning Brew on Saturday morning. I think that went quite well. Might change the name to Wide Awake Club, just for old time's sake. And if you don't catch me tonight at the quiz, I will be back tomorrow for another Morning Brew when there'll be 4 days to go until the election. So until then, thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.